Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles of Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Sara Bresee. She's the Executive Vice President of Marketing and Channel Sales at MasterControl. Sara, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me here.
Oh, we are very excited to chat with you today, Sara. Before we get into today's topic, I would love for you to share with us a little bit about what you and the team are up to over at MasterControl these days.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time at MasterControl. You know, we are this 25-year-old company that has suddenly become this really great story about cloud and SaaS growth. MasterControl is based in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we sell into the regulated departments around the world, but really largely regulated life sciences organizations. We have been a leader in quality management systems for over 2 decades. And if you think about if you take a pharmaceutical drug or if you use it or have a medical device, you really want those things to be regulated by the FDA. And regulation, of course, brings a ton of paperwork. In fact, it's been estimated that there are like 2 trailer trucks full of paper involved in being FDA compliant. And so it's our job actually to get the paper out of that process and help companies speed up their ability to comply with the FDA, which all ties to our big mission of bringing life-changing products to more people sooner. So we help organizations digitize, automate, and connect quality and compliance processes across the regulated product development lifecycle.
I love it. Coming from 10 plus years of selling copiers, printers, office equipment, document management software, I can tell you are doing amazing work over there. You know, it was amazing to me that how much is still spent on printed paper these days. And I can attest to, I've seen some of those truckloads of paper in the past. So in a different role now, but that just makes me think of my days, finding those back rooms just full of paper and trying to help people develop better processes for that, right?
Absolutely. You know, we laugh a lot because our product managers and product marketing teams, they get all geared up about the competition. And the reality is our competition is really paper. It's paper on the manufacturing shop floor. It's paper in the processes used to comply with audit. You know, it's pretty much paper anywhere in the quality management process. And everywhere you go, you sort of think, man, I can't believe people are still using paper. And yet something like 40% of our customers are still using paper for these core processes. So we're feeling pretty good about our potential longevity.
I love it. So that kind of segues nicely. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about the transition that you guys have been in. And I think that'll lead us into this conversation about, how you structure your marketing org and how you can really be strategy led and marry your strategy to your creative. And one of the things you and I were chatting about before we hit record here, Sara, is the transition you guys are going through to a platform company. Can you give us a little bit more context there? Because I think we're going to circle back to how that impacts your measurement and the things that you guys look at as an overall marketing team.
Absolutely. And, I think the really exciting thing, I've been here about 2 years. So this is actually my 2-year anniversary. When I got to MasterControl, we have a world-class demand generation team. So anybody who works at a startup understands that you don't start with, big picture brand marketing. You really start with, can we generate demand for our solutions? And we've done that in a really, really amazing way for many years as a single on-premise software product. And so not to downplay that, it's still hard. But in this year that I arrived, the company was making a major transition. So I was brought on board actually to help rebrand the company, but also reposition the company. We went from being this single on-premise product company selling quality management software to actually launching an entire product management excellence solution suite. Let me try and say that again. I think the brand update really was to signal this idea that we are no longer a single point product, but that we believe quality changes everything from the beginning of products in research and development all the way through to commercialization and then getting post-market feedback. So that branding effort was really new to MasterControl. And it really took the creation of an entirely new marketing organization. So you talked about what does it take to make that kind of change? The brand itself came from this big strategy idea and has come to life through a pretty monumental creative and digital experience effort.
So tell me a little bit about that shift there, because it sounds like you were really trying to shift the narrative, about the company. The rebrand wasn't just, hey, we need a new name, we need some fresh paint on the logo. And you and I were talking a little bit about the importance of story. Tell me a little bit about where that's been playing a role as you guys make this shift as a marketing team and a company overall.
Well, so in addition to modernizing the look, like you said, just a fresh coat of paint, we really wanted this new brand to signal two things to the marketplace. And the first thing was our transition from a single product company to a multi-solution platform product. But then the second part of that is a move to the SaaS-based business model. So that's a pretty complicated story. We launched as part of that platform effort a new product called Manufacturing Excellence to help address that problem of paper, as we were talking about specifically for manufacturers. So a little bit adjacent to our core quality space. Those are significant business challenges. And so I worked for 10 years in one of the world's leading B2B advertising agencies. And the things that I took away from that experience were things like, you got to be really specific about what you want your campaign to achieve. And I knew that I was not going to be able to take a demand gen team and create, this amazing new brand without the help of some really powerful new leadership. And so we actively recruited a new VP of strategy for marketing, and at the same time brought in an executive creative director so that they could work together on those challenges. And the three challenges, again, were single product to a platform product, on-premise product to a cloud-based product, and then the addition of an entirely new audience, this manufacturing audience that the company has never spoken to historically. So lots of problems to be solved that we were hoping the brand would help fix.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. You probably already know that we think you should start a podcast if you haven't already. But what if you have and you're asking these kinds of questions? How much has our podcast impacted revenue this year? How's our sales team actually leveraging the podcast content? If you can't answer these questions, you're actually not alone. This is why Casted created the very first content marketing platform made specifically for B2B podcasting. Now you can more easily search and share your audio content while getting greater visibility into the impact of your podcast. The marketing teams at Drift, Terminus, and here at Sweetfish have started using Casted to get more value out of our podcasts, and you probably can too. You can check out the product in action at casted.us/growth. That's casted.us/growth. All right, let's get back to the show.
So I want to come back in a second to how your strategy leader and creative leader are working together, kind of what that's looked like very tactically. But something you touch on there is we're making this big shift. How do we tell if we're winning, right? I think a lot of marketing teams know when they win a battle. They know when they've got more subscribers to their podcast. They know when they have more signups or their show up rate to their webinars is increasing. But how do we know if we're winning the war, the bigger picture, which is what you guys are focused on in large part in the story that you're telling me here, Sara? So tell me a little bit about what that looks like for you guys and what you would encourage other marketing teams that might be going through a similar shift to think about.
I spent a couple of years really getting the teams, I would say, built out and getting everybody's kind of legs underneath them. And it was really important for those individual teams to feel like they were winning the battle, right? So our demand gen team needed to continue to win the demand gen battle. We needed to have more prospects coming in the door. Our calling teams needed to convert more of those to leads. Those are really important wins. I'm a huge believer in celebrating those wins. I think when I look back over the last 9 months, the thing that we have had as a marketing leadership team to really ask ourselves is, are we winning the war? So the war being defined as getting more customers using pieces of our platform beyond just the single quality management system. So we really had to redefine the core metric. And so we now measure winning the war as what number of customers are using 3 or more parts of our platform. And that has reshaped the kinds of conversations that the leadership has, that their teams have with each other, so that while it's really great if our head of associations goes out and collects some leads, it's even better if the head of content and the head of associations and the head of events can all get together and say, what does this activity help us achieve, kind of together or with more impact? So it's a pretty major shift. I think if I could give myself of 9 months ago some advice, is like, every team has to be able to win individually. Those battles are important.
Mm-hmm.
And this takes time. Making this shift takes time. It's all goodness. It's just betterness when we can get everybody, kind of oriented to winning the war together.
I love that. Looking at the goodness and the betterness. One of the books that our team went through over this past year was the 4 Disciplines of Execution. And that model of 4DX, as a lot of people know it, is a lot about, you look at the lag measures, which kind of tell you, are you winning the war? And you need to put a lot of thought into those, but then you need to break those down into lead measures and have a scoreboard which reiterates the thing that you're talking about here, Sara, in having a scoreboard for each team so that they can see how they're performing in the battle and how that connects to winning the war. So I love that. I've seen that talked about in other methodologies. So I think that's, great advice for folks. Let's come back to, as you guys are trying to be strategy led, but knowing that quality is important. For folks that follow this podcast, they know that us here at Sweetfish talk a lot about, when it comes to content, quality and quantity matter. There's no getting away from both of them. So I would love to hear how you guys balance that strategy and creative, how those two roles are working together. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, one of the things I would add to your quality and quantity is authenticity. And I think it's really easy for marketers to get caught up in the race to generate the best or more blog posts or more case study videos. One of the luxuries we have being a mission-driven organization is that the product that we put into the marketplace makes the world better through making other companies better. And so we've really refocused, and I give a lot of credit to the executive creative director here. He has really focused us on telling more impactful stories. So as we went through the rebrand, our brand line is quality changes everything. He has worked very hard to ensure that as we pull our case studies together and we're pulling these references together, that our customers are talking about how quality changes everything. Mm-hmm. And what's amazing is once you connect this great idea, it unleashes their ability to talk passionately about their business. And I think you have a great measurement for success when, or a great indicator of success when you're going out on a video shoot and they can't stop repeating the passion about quality. So we just did a great case study with WD-40, where they literally talk about the authentic experience of somebody using WD-40 for the first time. And it's the sound that it makes when it comes out of the bottle. It's the red cap with the yellow stripe, but that people are connecting that to like a human experience. Yeah. So quality, quantity, but also authenticity. And I think, that really makes a massive difference. I think we all think impactful, heartfelt stories are great. The other thing I think we have to bring that back to, though, is why. Why is it important that we spend all this time using video to tell stories, or putting out case studies, or dedicating a blog specifically to our customers? And that is, I think, that balance of then what's the right strategy, right? So I think there's a really amazing magic that happens when you can hold yourself accountable to a discipline of, we have a strategy. We're not going to go out and do everything. We need to be strategy led. And that still enables the creative team to tell magnificent stories and be super impactful and creative, in partnership with that strategy.
Yeah. Having experience on both the agency side and the brand side, Sara, do you think that the struggle for a lot of teams, whether, it's the agency or the brand side, is that the person owning the strategy and the creative is one person, or that they often don't have those two roles talking together? Where's that disconnect in other places? Not asking you to name names where things aren't going, but just what are some of the pitfalls that have informed the approach that you guys are going with now on your marketing team?
So I worked in high-tech marketing for about 10 years for a company named MRM McCann, and pretty big agency, Madison Avenue, and the Salt Lake City office was the B2B center of excellence. We worked with customers like Verizon and Microsoft and Intel. And I will tell you that the big thing that I watched happen, and I was always so puzzled by it, was when you got stuck in just repeating the strategy. That these companies are so big and there are so many little silos of teams that to get something done, requires everybody signing off on the strategy. And it's like the strategy. And suddenly 6 months have gone by. They've paid you, I don't know, $90,000 in strategy consulting time. And then you're like, but wait, like what happened? Where's the beef, so to speak? And so for me, the leadership, it was really important that I bring in two people who were excellent in their disciplines, but ultimately that understood the brilliance is in executing. It's in getting the right content, the right campaigns out the door. It's just critical, right? You have to get stuff done.
Yeah. And quality's no good if it never sees the light of day.
Exactly. It can be the best strategy ever, but if you can't do anything with it,
100%.
Help anybody. Yep.
Well, Sara, I've really enjoyed this conversation. As we ask a lot of our guests, one of our core values here at Sweetfish is never stop learning. I think you've helped listeners do that a bit today with sharing some of your experience and the changes you guys are going through and what you're implementing in your marketing team there at MasterControl. But I'd love to ask you, what's a learning resource or something else that's informing your approach or has you excited lately? Has you learning either personally or professionally?
So I think one of the things when you go from focusing on winning the battles to winning the war is what you really come back to is that's all about people. And when you get a bunch of people in a room, it really becomes all about trust. So my leadership team has been working on the 5 dysfunctions, and the 5 dysfunctions is really all about trust. And if you don't have trust, it's really almost impossible to win the war together, because you get people who want to take credit for winning the battle or want, to be noticed or use the words, I did this or I'm in charge of that, as opposed to we. So we have been focusing a lot on making sure that we have the right foundation of trust so that we can go win the war together. So that's like the huge one, I would say, for sure. Like if you're going to build a great team, it's got to be about trust. Yep. But I will say, I will make one small plug. I have worked with a ton of young people in the agency world and here. And one of the most interesting things that I find is that there's no language for people to authentically apologize or kind of own their own stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the one chapter that I make everyone read, or I would never make someone, but I would ask everyone to read, and it's in our kind of our Marketing True North library, is the Amy Poehler book. If you've never read Amy Poehler's book about how to apologize, she does like 3 spectacular chapters that really come down to what is really a true apology and like what does taking accountability really look like, that are life-changing to me, that really help people see the difference between obfuscating and kind of owning it. And that to me also ties to trust, but she does it in such an amazing storytelling kind of way. That's like hands down, like the best reading for people.
That's awesome. That has not been on my radar. I feel like I'm recognizing a book cover or something there, but one of our other core values here at Sweetfish is own the result, and not just, well, I did what was expected of me, but I took it to the end. And part of that is the ownership of, what was completed, not just completing it, but like you said, when you miss the mark, owning that as well. So you've hit on 2 of our 3 core values. So this is obviously, and I didn't even tee you up for that. That's amazing, Sara. Well, Sara, if anybody listening to this would like to either learn more about MasterControl, just stay connected with you, fellow marketers listening to this, what's the best way for them to learn more or reach out or stay connected with you?
Well, you can always get me at LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is Sara Jane Bresee. MasterControl is at MasterControl, or hashtag, quality changes everything. We also are rolling with hashtag war on paper, and mastercontrol.com, of course.
I love it. Well, Sara, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big 3, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.